Yes, Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Central, and basically I have a mix. This, like this week, I have a really good friend who was former Special Forces from Texas, and I'm having him on, to discuss some conspiracy stuff. And then the second part of the show, I have a good friend on, and we're going to discuss my book just a little bit, so a little bit of sneak peeks, maybe into book 3. So
now, being in the military, I have a question for you out of curiosity, because I've heard this from people in the military, especially, people that are in the Air Force, because you're in flight and they're dealing with, things in the sky. Have you seen things, anything of paranormal nature? Unless it's classified, I understand.
Yeah. I really didn't see anything while I was in the military, so to say. But I can tell you that I've had an experience when I was 16, 17 years old. I was actually over in Wayne County, which is a county over from my old hometown of Centerville, and believe it or not, I saw this amazing thing show up. It had all kinds of different colored lights. I didn't know what it was, and I got down the road just a little bit, and it just disappears. That's been really the only experience that I've had as far as maybe a UFO or something like that. I know my dad had an experience, as a young cop, a young beat cop back in the 1950s. But I have talked to people, within the military that have seen things, and for the most part, they're pretty tight-lipped, but they definitely don't tell me no, which basically, that kind of wakes it up. If you're not going to tell me no, then something's got to be to it.
Right. Well, I do know a lot of people that are in the military that I have a friend. He actually is based out of, I don't know, it's in Arizona, Tucson, I think. And I was talking to him one day, and he said, we were talking about UFOs and stuff, and he said, yeah, there's things I could tell you, but I can't because it's classified. And he says, I'm out of the military in a couple of years, and there'll be some things I can reveal, but not everything, because, there's some things you just can never reveal, that
you
they've seen.
You bet.
So, and especially in Arizona, that's like a hotbed for UFOs, but like you said, with your dad having that experience, even my own father had an experience. It was nothing to do with UFOs, but he had an experience too many years ago when the Sierras had it was like blizzard-like conditions back in the early 80s, 80, 81. And, my dad being Canadian, no stinking snow is going to stop him. He had to go to Reno to pick up my aunt to bring her down to Monterey, back over the summit in California in time for Thanksgiving, and they were driving in a blizzard. And he, to this day, well, he's gone, long gone now, but till his dying days, he swore he saw Bigfoot. I mean,
wow.
He sat there going, the thing crossed the highway in the blizzard. I almost hit it. I looked at it. It looked at me. It was a great big ape. It was human. I mean, he was describing it, and everyone thought he was crazy. And it was because of his story. Something clicked. It clicked for me. I sat there going, "That's right." When I was introduced to the paranormal, everything changed for me by that one experience that I didn't even have. So sometimes our parents have these experiences and it intrigues you. You're like, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And Linda, my dad, that experience back in the 50s, one of his good friends, they were actually out on patrol. And basically, the Centerville police, Centerville's a pretty small town, especially when you talk about, California and whatnot. I believe it had 6,000 population then. There's 4,800 now, but he saw something in the sky that was a UFO. And, he kind of told me this experience. He went back to the law center, and they laughed at him. And then he told his buddy, he says, well, I'm sure the hell not going to say anything again because they think I'm a fruitcake. But, my dad, was not only my dad and disciplinarian and mentor, and he was my best friend, and that might be what what got me, interested in the unknown.
See, it just depends. Sometimes we have those experiences, or we hear of relatives who've had those experiences, and it intrigues you. I've been looking up at the sky ever since, even though Bigfoot is not, well, we don't really know where Bigfoot, Sasquatch comes from. I mean, for all we know, they're star people that have been put here for some strange reason. I don't know. I mean, I've heard all kinds of cryptozoologists talk about certain things, and I mean, I just don't know what they are or who they are or where they come from, but they seem extraterrestrial to me in some ways.
Yeah. You see it all the time. The New Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, all of these interdimensional beings, maybe, and that's kind of my interest level is basically, are these experiences, basically the shroud of the next dimension? Are they coming in and out? Are they able to do that? Or, like you mentioned, were they dropped here, from another planet? It's exciting to even ponder those questions.
It really is. And, like I said, I do watch entirely too much all these shows, Monsters and Mysteries, UFO Hunters, all kinds of stuff on History Channel, all these interesting things. And I did see this thing about Bigfoot once, and some gentleman that lives up in rural Washington State was telling Linda Moulton Howe. I don't know if you know who Linda Moulton Howe is. She's big time. She's on Coast to Coast. She's a journalist, writer, paranormal investigator. If any of you have ever watched any of those shows, you will know who Linda Moulton Howe is. But she interviewed this man, and he actually said that he watched this UFO hover, this thing drop out of the UFO, which was a Sasquatch, a Yeti, whatever you want to call it, and just walked away into the woods, and the UFO just disappeared into the sky. So there's always that possibility that they were put here. Maybe they're put here to keep an eye on us as humans, because, us humans are really polluting this planet and hurting the planet, and maybe it's our futuristic brothers that are trying to protect us, help us, teach us the error of our ways. I don't know. But it's definitely fun to ponder.
Oh, absolutely. I read an article recently that mentioned that, and I think it was from one of the Apollo, folks that had made the statement that, the UFOs had actually talked us into not having nuclear war at one point, or you hear the story about, when we went on high alert and the nuclear weapons wouldn't work either in South Dakota or North Dakota. I can't remember which state. I apologize, but there are all those sorts of aspects as well.
I heard a story similar to that, and don't quote me here because I'm not versed in it, but it was actually recently. I was watching a documentary, and it was talking about back in the 50s or 60s when they were testing nuclear missiles for something. This happened over the desert somewhere. They were testing a nuke, and something went wrong with the nuke, and there's footage on YouTube of it. You can go and look, and there actually a UFO hovered over the nuke. A laser of some sort came out of the thing, did something to the nuke, and the nuke shot straight up into space and disappeared.
Wow!
It's like their nuclear missile malfunctioned. Maybe our ETs knew that what was getting ready to happen was going to be a disaster, and they protected us from something far worse. I don't know. Very interesting, though.
Absolutely. The unknown is what keeps me going. From my normal day-to-day life or whatever. Anything regarding the unknown, I just I love speculating. I love talking to people that that are maybe they definitely know a lot more about those topics than I do. But yeah, it's interesting to even ponder those aspects. Now, what are your thoughts as far as if you were to look at dimensions, Would you consider that basically the universe that we live in now, that there might be 4, possibly 10 types, or 4 to 10 dimensions that are, kind of that kind of spread our reality?
Absolutely. I do believe in dimensions, and I believe there are many layers of dimensions, and I think that it's like it goes in stages. You're obviously, as a human being, if you're going to go to the first or second dimension, it's a primer to get you prepared for the fourth or fifth dimension. And ultimately, the higher the dimension, I would say, the higher we go into, I don't want to say the universe, but into our solar system, our tapping into our ancient ancestors, which don't necessarily have to be human. Our ancient ancestors. I've said this on air before, I talk about Jesus Christ being extraterrestrial. I do believe in the fact that there are a lot of things, like the lost verses of the Bible, there are a lot of things missing in our Bible that would really kind of explain some of those mysteries that you and I ponder as human beings, having that inquisitive mind that we do.
Yeah. I find that it is relative, to things. If you look at how many volumes upon volumes of books and artifacts that are in the Vatican Library, I would love to go there and basically to see if they have some of those answers, that could fill in the blanks.
Absolutely. I agree. And I do think too our ancestry as human beings, I've done some research on this, and they do say we do share a link with extraterrestrials in our DNA. Now, I don't know how true that is. That's just things that I have read from being intrigued by this. But, I feel anything is possible at this point in life. Anything is possible.
Absolutely. It's one of those deals that we get up on a daily basis. We look at ourselves in the mirror, and oftentimes we get so caught up in the negative that we fail to see all the little miracles around us, like our ancestors, or if you want to call them angels, or whatever, that are constantly around us on a daily basis, and they help us along in this life, so to say.
Absolutely. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so I do want to ask, and I ask a lot of my guests this, especially the ones that are sensitive or intuitive or into the paranormal. And Chuck, if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to, but has there been anything in your life, that has had, you felt a negative entity or a negative presence?
Linda, I will answer that,
okay.
And for all the listeners, it could scare them. I mean, obviously, we can all we all have our own opinions and relationships, with the spiritual realm and whatnot. But I can tell you that I have experienced definite dark. I wouldn't call them demons, because demons is oversaid, in the paranormal.
Yes, it is.
But I will tell you that there are spirits, and we can't even call them spirits. They, those that have never been human form, and there is a darkness and there is a light, and basically I am in constant conflict between that fight of darkness and light, and I have experienced several times, the darker side, trying to basically penetrate my soul and my mortal existence to basically, I suppose, in past lives, you definitely live in different ways, and your karma is a little bit different, and it follows you. And I'm wondering if a lot of us that experience that good fight between the darkness and light, if in fact that we are older souls, Linda, versus, the truly younger souls.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. And a lot of people who are Virgos are very old souls. I can tell that. And I haven't even done your stars yet, per se. A lot of us that are in tune with the paranormal, and I'm speaking for a great many of us. I'm speaking for myself, for you. for people like Chris George, who's going to be up next joining us.